Why, hello there, everyone. Today I am reviewing the Breakers collection, which is available for Steam, Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. So everything on the market right now for $20, featuring rollback, netcode, and crossplay at launch. And I did get a review code from QUByte Interactive, so big thanks to them. But keep in mind that this is not a sponsored review, so I will be reviewing this as critically as I would anything else, as if I had bought it with my money, right? So let me show you what the collection includes and why it is worth the money. And before we get started, note that normally you would be hearing music right now in the menu, but I have it muted because it's actually a funny story. So I streamed this game 3 times before making this review, and one of the times in which I was streaming this game, one of my viewers came in and made the observation that the music playing in the menu sounded like stock music, and I had to agree, right? It was a funny observation, and even though I don't dislike the menu music, I had to agree, yeah, it does sound like stock music, that's funny. And then I found out that one of my fellow streamers, one of my streamer friends on Twitch who also reviewed the game, his review got copyright claimed because of the music that was playing. And he looked up the details that were listed in the copyright claim and found out, yes, it is in fact stock music, which is hilarious. So I would rather my video not get copyright claimed, hence why I have the menu music off. But don't worry, because once I open up the training mode and whatnot, you will be hearing the game. So anyways, the game selection. You get Breakers and Breakers Revenge, hence the name Breakers Collection. So I'm not too familiar with this franchise. Honestly, I didn't even know about the Breakers franchise before the Breakers collection. So these are obscure games, right? Because if I don't know about them, I consider that obscure because I am a fighting game fan, and I thought I knew all the fighting games, but apparently not. But the main difference between Breakers 1 and Breakers Revenge is that Breakers Revenge has an additional character, the ninja character that you see right there, Saizo. And at first, I thought Breakers Revenge actually had 2 extra characters. But, well, actually, I'll get back to that later. So these are essentially Street Fighter clones. Street Fighter / KOF clones. They feel a bit more like Street Fighter when you're playing it, just because of the pace of the game and how the majority of the roster are obviously based on Street Fighter characters. But the game is a 4-button fighter, which makes it feel more like KOF. And something else that makes it feel more like KOF is that they added a team battle mode. I don't know if this is in the original arcade version of the game. I think this might be new, which is why I'm pointing it out. Team Battle Mode lets you play the game like a KOF game in that you have a team, and you can do a team of 2 or 3, which I will show off here. So you can do a team of 2 or 3. So let's just do 3 for demonstration purposes, and you can build a team. Again, keep in mind there's no menu music right now because I have that muted, but normally there would be music playing here. So you can pick the character, change the color. And Saizo. So it's not a tag team fighting game like Marvel vs. Capcom or anything like that. It's based on the KOF format in that you use this character until you lose the character, and then your next one comes in. So anyways, back to what I was talking about before. I thought that Breakers Revenge was going to have 2 extra characters, because if you look at the roster, it has 2 extra slots. It has Saizo, and it has Bai Hu, which is the boss character in the game. The boss character is also in Breakers 1 at the end of the arcade, but he doesn't show up on the character selection. So I thought, oh, okay, cool, they made him a playable character in this. But what's weird is that I found out you actually can play as Bai Hu in Breakers 1, despite him not being on the character select. And I only learned of this because of something that's potentially a bug, maybe, or I'm just somehow, like, accidentally entering some kind of cheat code to unlock him. So if you do Team Battle Mode in Breakers 1, versus would be 2-player, let me go back. Go back. We'll get to the multiplayer momentarily. Team Battle Mode, Arcade Team Battle. If anybody knows why this is happening, please let me know in the comments. If I go to team size 2, for example, let's say I pick Show, or not Dalong, Show and Condor, it changes my second character to Baihu for some reason. So that proves Baihu is in the game, which is cool, but I don't know why I'm not getting my selected second character. So that's kind of annoying, but it's not really a big deal because between these two games, you're going to really buy this collection for Breaker's Revenge because Breaker's Revenge is objectively better, really. Like I said, the main difference is that it just has an additional character in Saizo. The other differences are that, just from what I can tell, is that some of the sprites are different in the character select, and also some of the sprites are different for the stages. The stages are slightly different, but that's not really significant, right? So let's go back to Breaker's Revenge. Oh, also, forgot to mention, Team Battle Mode. You cannot do Team Battle Mode online. That is a single player and offline only thing. Well, not single player only because you have versus team battle, which is if you're playing with someone in the same room as you. Let me check just to make sure. But you can't do it online. Yeah, see, okay. Assign a new controller. Whoops, go back. So it's not single player only, but it is offline only, which is a little disappointing because I would have liked to do the team battle mode online, but I can't really hold that against the game if the team battle mode is new, because if they ported these games without the team battle mode, I wouldn't even think about team battle mode, and I wouldn't be critiquing it saying, oh, they should have team battle mode online, right? Because I wouldn't even think about that if it didn't have team battle mode at all. It's just that the fact that it has team battle mode in it, it makes me wish they went a little bit further and made it an online option. But again, I can't actually hold that against it. So let's go to Breaker's Revenge. And this also has the team battle mode, as you can see. And with this, you have the training mode, probably because they know that if you're going to be playing one of these games seriously to play online, you would do Breaker's Revenge, because this is the game that you can play online. I don't know if there are actual character balance differences between the characters in Breaker's Revenge and Breaker's 1. So if the character balances are different, then maybe there would be a reason to wish that Breaker's 1 had an online option. But if the character balance is the exact same, then there's no reason to have Breaker's 1 be online at all. Because again, Breaker's Revenge is essentially the same game, but with an extra character. So let me show off the training mode and also the roster at the same time. So like I said, the characters are based on Street Fighter archetypes, each one being pretty easy to figure out. Let's go here. So Show is Show is presented here. I might actually have to go back because there's going to be a time limit. But Show is presented like the Shoto, but really the Shoto is Tia, who you would assume to be like Chun-Li, but she's really interesting because she's actually a Chun-Li archetype and also a Shoto archetype at the same time. So I think Tia is one of the more interesting characters because of that. Let me go back. It's a little archaic that there's a countdown during the character select for training mode. Not that it's a big deal. It's only really inconvenient when I'm trying to record something, right? Show is a lot more like Ryo from KOF. He's definitely the most KOF-feeling character. Condor, my favorite. He's the grappler archetype, a pretty good one at that because he has several different throws he can do. Rila is female Blanca. I already talked about Tia. Alcyon is like the Dalsim archetype. Dalong is a charge character in addition to Rila. Saizo he's a pretty great zoner, but he has to be one of, if not the best character in the game because he really has no weaknesses. He has such a strong DP. I guess his one weakness would be that he doesn't have great wake-up options because his DP isn't invincible in frame 1. And then Baihu's the boss character. He's literally just OP, right? He's made to be OP on purpose. He doesn't have any motion inputs. If you look at the command list on the side, it's all just button presses. He doesn't have any motion inputs, which is crazy. Aside from Baihu and Saizo, Mahurl and PL would be the other two characters that don't really cleanly fall into a Street Fighter archetype. Obviously, PL is a fencer, so maybe you could compare him to someone like Charlotte from Samurai Showdown. And as for Mahurl, his kit is pretty loaded because not only does he get a sword, but he can also inflate like a balloon. His super can summon a genie, and he can also breathe fire. So Mahurl's kit is definitely loaded. So if you want to play more of a unique character instead of just playing a Street Fighter or a KOF character, then I would say try out Mahurl or PL. So let me actually just pick Condor now, so I can show you some of the features that they have in here, because some of these features are pretty cool, despite there being one very blatantly missing option, which I will get to. Let's pick Condor. Let's beat up on Sho, since he's the main character. Also, you can see with the command list on the side here, none of the characters really have that big of a command list. The characters in this game are pretty easy to learn, which makes it pretty fun to play multiple characters, especially if you want to do the team battle mode. But there are some unique aspects between the characters. So for example, if you look at the throws that Condor has, not just the command throws, but the regular throw inputs, he has additional throw inputs. So he can do a light throw, which side switches, or he can do a heavy punch throw, or a heavy kick throw, right? So the heavy kick side switches, but the heavy punch doesn't. But you don't get Oki, because with the light throws, you're really close to the opponent when they wake up, and with the heavy ones, they do more damage, but then you are far away. So for example, Condor just gets more options when it comes to a universal mechanic, which is standard throws, which is interesting. Also, I noticed that some characters in the game get what is sort of a Gatling combo. I don't know if it technically has to be a cancel for it to be considered a real Gatling, but it's essentially a Gatling because you can do light punch into light kick into heavy punch. Like that, like so. 3 hits. For the most part, the combo structure in this game is going to be a normal into a special into super, or a normal into a command normal into a super, something like that along those lines. So the combo ability in this game isn't nutso, it's not crazy or anything like that, but there are some cool things. So for example, Condor can combo super after this, which is pretty satisfying. So anyways, let me show you the training settings before I just start talking about Condor and why I like grappler characters. So you can show the hitbox, which is pretty cool. If you do that, you have to restart training mode, essentially, which is fine. And now you can see the hitboxes, which is pretty cool. And in addition to that, we have damage info, input data. Obviously, these are basic things. You can give yourself infinite gauge. Another feature in the training mode that I like is that you can change your character without having to restart the entire training mode. You can also change the stage as well, I guess, if you just want a change of scenery. But being able to change characters is obviously more important, right? So it takes you back to the character selection, obviously, so you can select the character. But that is much faster than having to exit to main menu, right? So that's nice. So despite these cool features, such as the hitbox viewer, for some reason, there are no blocking options for the opponent, nor are there any position reset settings. So if you restart the training mode, you're always going to start in the middle here, and you can't choose to start on the player 2 side either, which is really annoying. That is both block options and being able to choose where you restart are pretty basic staples for any training mode. So this must have been some kind of oversight or something, because it must have been such a given that they just didn't think about it. They already said that this game is going to get updates, so I'm hoping and also expecting that they're going to add some options in the training mode. I didn't explicitly say it, but it goes without saying that the reason why block options are important in a training mode is so you can actually lab different combos and know for sure that it's a combo, right? Or if you just want to test if something's safe, because I don't know if you can actually look at frame data, but normally if you want to test if something's safe without the game showing you frame data, is that, this is kind of an old school way of testing it, but you could make the opponent block. You could make them block. So I can't actually make them block, but you can make them crouch backwards. Crouch backwards. Right, so they should be blocking everything but overheads right now. But then you should be able to give them a follow-up option. So if you were able to set them to jump after blocking, what you would do is you would hit them and then hold up. And then you could see if you jump before them or if they jump before you. So if you jump before them, you know that you're at least plus. But if they jump before you, you know it's unsafe, right? Anyways, that is the training mode. So definitely manageable. If you know how to figure out combos on your own, you can make do with this. But otherwise, I do wish that they had a block option and position reset settings so I can just practice my left side stuff. Because my left side, my left side super inputs were definitely not as good as my right side super inputs when I was playing through this game. The arcade mode is what you would expect from an arcade mode. You can play as the different characters. You get a short little ending at the end, right, for each character. The game isn't that hard. It's not the hardest fighting game arcade mode that I've fought. You have multiple difficulty options. Let me show you. So obviously you can make it easy if you want, but I have beaten it twice on the hardest setting. I was expecting it to be much harder. Like I said, it's not the hardest arcade mode fighting game I've ever played, which is a little disappointing because I was hoping for something that would make me take a long time to beat. I've been wanting to play something pretty challenging lately. What's weird is that I put it on the max difficulty hard, and I played through it with Condor, and the only fight that gave me trouble was Tia, which was the 4th fight in the arcade ladder. But then when I got to the final boss, I beat him in just a few tries, and it wasn't hard at all. But then later, I played through on the same difficulty with Saizo, and I actually did have some trouble with the final boss at Saizo. It took significantly longer, although not that long. The hardest final boss in an arcade mode fighting game I've ever fought so far is still, to this day, Magneto in X-Men Children of the Atom. That one is really hard. I also hear that Rugal from KOF 98 is pretty hard too. So maybe those guys are just giving a really weird, unrealistic standard for how hard the final bosses should be. But playing it on hard is definitely a nice challenge. It's okay. And you can also change the timer speed if you feel like cheesing the opponents by making the timer speed very fast. So you can just hit the opponent and then turtle and win because of a timeout. Or super fast, I guess, if you wanted to do that. So let me show off the online mode now. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this game does have rollback and crossplay at launch, which is a big deal. Rollback is pretty much the norm now. However, crossplay, some companies still seem to be dragging their feet a little bit with crossplay. But this game launched with both of that, with both crossplay and rollback, with both of those. So that is a big deal, and they definitely deserve praise for that, because those are the two big things. Especially with this game being a port of an obscure fighting game that not many people know about, an old obscure fighting game, you really are not realistically going to get a lot of people playing online. So the fact that they made it crossplay is very nice. So that way you can have you can have as high of a chance of finding an opponent as possible, right? Also, I like these little chibi pixel art characters they have on the loading screens of maybe dubious quality pixel art at best, but I do appreciate it. They have one for each character. So we are in. Ignore my win-loss record at the top. And before I show off the actual multiplayer stuff, let me shout out a cool little thing. Open profile. Edit profile. Look at these titles, okay? So you have World Warrior, Mortal Combatant, The King, and Iron Fist, and Virtuous Fighter. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I kind of wish there was a Soul Calibur one, although I don't know what they would have said. Maybe they could have said, like, Stage Historian for Stage of History, or maybe, like, Burning Soul for someone whose soul still burns. Maybe they'll add that in an update. Who knows? Not that it matters much. So we have lobbies. What's weird is that I was expecting to get the majority of my matches through lobbies in this game. However, I found that the ranked queue was actually the most populated, which is really weird. But let me show off the lobbies first. So it is essentially a King of the Hill style lobby. So not like Power Rangers Battle for the Grid or Marvel Infinite. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Power Rangers lobbies are definitely the best style of lobbies, in my opinion, because you can have multiple fights going on at the same time. Whereas in this case, it's just a King of the Hill lobby, but it's still effective, right? It's still a lot better than a Strive lobby because this is just to the point and effective, right? So I don't know if I'll be able to find a lobby right now. So let me just create one so I can show you what it looks like. For USA East, it looks as if there are 5 people playing online on USA East right now anyway. Keep the crossplay on, obviously. Let's say 8 players, 2 rounds, first to 2. Let's have fun. Make it private. Make a password. And as you can see, like I said, it is just a King of the Hill style lobby. You have one fight going on at any given time. Or no more than one fight at any given time, right? Oh, also, about the lobbies, something I forgot to mention. I just looked over at my notes and saw it. This is pretty cool. I wish more games had this. You can change the lobby settings without having to remake the entire lobby. There's PL. I kind of want to show off all the little pixel art loading screen people. Public, no. Private. I guess reserved would be invite only, so I don't have to make a password. So, open menu. See this? Lobby configuration. You can change the lobby rules without having to remake the entire thing, which is great. Especially as a live streamer, because a lot of times I will want to change the lobby settings by making it where more people can join or something like that. And I have to say, oh, hold on, guys, I need to remake the whole room, right? So it's nice that you can do that without having to interrupt anything. Also, with this game having rollback netcode, it's nice that they allow you to change the input delay manually, right? Because my connection is never that great, so I usually have to add at least a couple input delay frames. I recommend to most people that you should add 1 or 2. I think for most people, they should add 1 or 2 because 1 or 2 is barely noticeable at all. And it is definitely worth it to make things roll back less often. But for me personally, I had to play with 3, sometimes 4 frames of input delay, which is noticeable. But for me, it's still the better option because, like I said, my internet's never too great, even being wired. So that's great that they let you manually change this. Oh, also, the symbols up there, one of those symbols is actually indicating whether or not I am on a wired connection or a Wi-Fi connection. And it's good that they discriminate between the two, right? Especially when you do the ranked queue or casual queue, you can actually choose to only be match made against wired opponents or Wi-Fi opponents. Which is hilarious because why would you only want to be match made against Wi-Fi opponents? Maybe if you just want to specifically find a Wi-Fi match, you can prove a point to your friend that Wi-Fi connections are terrible. So you can do, you can be picky about the rank, you can be picky about the region, the connection speed. This is where you can choose wired or Wi-Fi. The fair play level is actually a score which represents how often the opponent disconnects, right? So if you have a rage quitter that's always disconnecting before he loses, it will mark him. Battle info. I think this is, I don't know if this is choosing how much info you show or how much info the opponent shows. And then, of course, the crossplay. I wish that the warm-up while searching let you go into training mode while you were waiting. It's weird that they give you this option without giving you the training mode option. What warm-up while searching actually is that it lets you fight against a CPU, which is better than nothing, I guess, but I kind of wish they would add the option to be in training mode because that's a lot more valuable than fighting against a CPU because even though I like fighting against CPUs on hard difficulty, fighting against a CPU does not teach you the skills that you need to fight a human and vice versa. Those are both two completely different games, fighting against a human and a CPU, right? And yeah, you can see the CPU level when you're fighting the CPU while waiting. But it is nice that you can do something while waiting. I just hope they update it and make it where you can go into training mode so I can practice like a cancel into a certain super or something like that. Casual battle. I don't think I've tried casual queue, but I'm assuming it would look similar to the ranked options. Yeah, see. And then, related to the multiplayer, even though this is more like a training mode option, is something in the replays, which I will demonstrate here. It's a pretty cool feature. Let's look at the most recent fight. Well, let's do one with a character I know how to play. Let's do one with Condor. Okay, so this Condor is fighting a Dao Long, if I'm remembering his name. See replay. I'm going to let this play out until I see something happen. So I see Dao Long do something. Okay, so that was a cross-up, right? So, actually, let me rewind first. Rewind is L1. Where was that cross-up? There, that's the cross-up, right? You blocked the cross-up. If you pause it in the replay mode and go to settings, and there's normal mode. Oh, also you can show the inputs. Normal mode, frame by frame mode, which just plays it frame by frame, obviously. But the most interesting thing here is that you can go to the take control mode, and you can control either of the characters being played in the replay at any given moment. So, for example, I just showed Dao Long doing a cross-up attempt, right? And in this replay, the Condor player managed to block it. But let's say, for example, you just finished a match in which you got crossed up like that and you didn't manage to block it, right? Or let's say you got caught in some kind of mix-up, or the opponent did some kind of setup on you and you just don't know how you're supposed to beat it, or maybe you just want to get used to reacting to it, right? Like, let's say you just want to get used to reacting to this Dao Long cross-up. I think Condor is player 2 because he's on the right side. So I'm going to hit control player 2, and let's see if it makes me control Condor. Yep, see? So I wasn't pressing anything and it hit me. So I'm now controlling Condor, and it lets you control the character for a few moments here. Obviously, they wouldn't want you to control it for the whole time. Yeah, it says remaining time at the top because I'm going to get to the audio that you just heard. It shows the remaining time at the top because obviously the opponent is just replaying all the inputs they did before, and if you are doing something different, it's just going to be a completely different instance of the fight. So I'm going to let it replay one more time, and I'm going to actually block the cross-up. Just for demonstration purposes that you can actually... Look, see, that time I actually didn't block it because I was doing down back. So I'm going to try it one more time. Okay, I'm actually going to do it again just to make sure I can get it now because for some reason I didn't block that. I'm trying not to hold left too early. There we go. See? So that's really cool. You might have heard that grating audio just then, and that actually leads me to a pretty general critique about the game. It seems to happen more often in the multiplayer, and that is that the game has some audio bugs. The devs are aware of this. They have already addressed it, so I'm assuming that it'll be fixed in the next patch. But in addition to it just making some grating sounds like that every now and then, sometimes... for example, when I did this take control option in the replays before, the game just went mute, so I didn't have any audio at all. And then other times, more commonly, when I was playing in a lobby with a streamer friend who also got the game, sometimes when a match started, the audio would be so quiet. It wouldn't be muted, but it would just be so quiet for some reason, which is more annoying when I'm live streaming, right? Because if you're just playing the game by yourself, not streaming, you can just be like, whatever, and turn your headphone volume up or your TV volume up, right? It's not that big of a deal. But when I'm live streaming, I have all these different audio levels that I'm trying to balance, so then I have to rebalance that, but then if it goes back to normal, I have to change it again, right? But I don't want to just tell my viewers to turn the audio up, their audio up, because then my voice will be too loud, etc. So I'm hoping they fix that. I think everybody is having experience with audio issues. Nothing too major, but definitely noticeable. So those are the main modes. Those are the main selling points of the game, right? Because when it comes to any kind of fighting game, the main questions are going to be, what is the single player like? What is the multiplayer like? And what is the training mode like, right? So that's that. But before I wrap this up, let me show you some of the extras, because this game does have some extra goodies in it. You have to go back to the main menu before you select a game. Extras. Gallery. So there's some fan art here. You'll notice it's mostly Tia. I wonder why. We have a couple of Show, which I'm proud of, but the majority of it's Tia. In fact, QUByte Interactive actually said that they are taking submissions for more fan art, which they will add into the game whenever they update it again. So I think I'm going to make one for Condor. Be on the lookout. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to see me post it. I think I'm going to make a fan art of Condor just so I can make some kind of vain attempt to counterbalance all of this Tia fan art. Some of which is a little too scandalous to show on the video. Otherwise, I might show all of them off here. But you guys can check out the fan arts for yourself if you buy the game, right? And then we have promo art. And I like how they include all of this art here in the gallery, right? But something I don't like is that a lot of it's locked through ranked means, right? So I don't mind if you have to unlock the art through stuff that's just in the game itself, like if you have to do single player stuff to unlock the art. But I really don't see, I don't mind this one. Finish Breakers and Breakers Revenge arcade mode with all characters, right? That's something you can do by yourself whenever, regardless. I don't mind that. But this one, for example, win 10 ranked matches against higher ranked opponents. I don't like this at all, because with this game being so obscure, like it's already a fighting game, right? Which is niche. And in addition to that, it's a port of an old, obscure fighting game that's only going to have a handful of people playing it at any given time, right? And that player base is only going to get smaller over time. So you might be able to get 10 ranked matches against higher ranked opponents right now, but in a few months, in a year or two, right? It might be not realistic at all to expect to find 10 ranked matches against higher ranked opponents, and you have to win 10 of them. I don't think it's fair, right? Because that means people who are trying to unlock this near the game's launch are going to have a much easier time than people who are trying to unlock it years from now. I think when it comes to achievements and things like that, it should always be the same difficulty, right? So for example, Finish Breakers and Breakers Revenge arcade mode with all characters, that's going to be just as hard or just as easy to get now as it will be like 5 years from now. If you buy the game five years from now and you try to unlock that, it'll be the same exact requirements, right? So I'm hoping that in the next update, they just unlock these, any kind of arts or extras that are locked by ranked or online means. I hope they just unlock and make available to view, right? Because that's a little ridiculous. I think it's a little unrealistic to expect people to just be able to find all these matches in ranked, no less. So that was my review of the Breakers collection. Definitely worth the money. Definitely fun. I think if you get the game, you should try to convince one of your friends to get it as well, so that way you know you have someone to play with, because even though there are people online playing this game on ranked, I think when it comes to playing some old fighting game that people aren't very familiar with, it's a lot of fun figuring it out with someone else that you can talk to in real time. And it's also just a fun, casual thing to play to hold you over until Street Fighter 6, because I know if you're like me, you can't wait for Street Fighter 6, and so I'm having a lot of fun just playing these other fighting games that I'm not taking that seriously leading up to Street Fighter 6, because I plan to take Street Fighter 6 very seriously. And if you have any questions about the game, let me know in the comments, and let me know if you're planning on getting the game. So thanks again to QUByte for the review code, and I will see all of you guys later. So bye for now.